Hey guys, Redneck Mini 14 here. Happy Easter, by the way. Um, I'm just getting into doing some videos that I realized that I never actually ended up making. I have a whole list of videos that I haven't made yet, and so I'm going to try and get some of those knocked out in the next couple weeks while we're all quarantined. And one of them is I realized that I never actually made a formal review of my Ruger Mini 30. So we're going to go through that now since some people have wondered, where my Mini 14's been. Well, here's one of them. This is my Mini 30. This particular one is a 1986 production Mini 30, I believe. So it's the very first year that Ruger actually produced the Mini 30. And it's very similar to the Mini 14s of the era. There is this flip up aperture sight or ghost ring or whatever you want to call it, peep sight, and it has just your standard blade front sight. Now newer versions of this rifle would have a winged post, much like my other Mini 14 with the wood stock, and a lot like other guns like M1 Garands, M1 carbines, AR-15s, things like that. So the newer sights are much better, and the newer ones also come with a better rear sight as well. I particularly don't like this rear sight. I think it looks really flimsy and easy to break. Now I guess it's easy to flip down and add a scope, so you don't have to worry about taking a sight off if your scope is too low and in the way. So I guess that is a plus to this if you're a scope kind of guy. I don't plan on putting a scope on this, so what I do plan on putting on it is this TechSight adjustable aperture, which is really user friendly. You don't have to have any special tools to adjust the sight. So I'll be putting that on at some point. Maybe, this will be one of the projects that I get done in this quarantine. So look forward to doing that. Just some features of the rifle. You have your standard Garand style action. You have a bolt hold open button here, and it also holds open on the last round. You have a paddle style mag release, much like an AK or something like that. 5-round magazine. This is pretty much your standard magazine if you're talking about like hunting or whatever. You have and by the way, this is clear as you've seen, you have a Garand style safety. Outside the trigger guard is fire, inside is safe. You have your little heat shield here, which also shields the op rod, so you don't hit the op rod with your non-firing hand or your support hand. It does have sling swivels on the front, on the gas block on the front and the back. And this particular one has a wood stock with just a plain plastic butt plate, which has the Ruger emblem on it. I don't know if this will actually show up on this camera because the focus on this camera really sucks, but just a plain basic wood stock, which I really like. And I also have a sling, a leather sling, that I plan on putting on this at some point. If you don't know much about the Ruger Mini 14s or Mini 30s, they are a piston system, a fixed piston system, I believe is what it's called. I don't really understand all the differences between the different types of gas systems, but basically you have your gas block here, you have a gas port coming down, and the op rod runs under the gun down to right here, and all the gases from the rounds being shot push the op rod back and open the action, and that's basically how it works. So that's all the features of the gun. Let's talk about a few other things. So Mini 14s, Mini 30s, they have proprietary magazine systems. So in other words, they don't take AR mags or AK mags. This one actually came with a Pro Mag, this little plastic 30 round Pro Mag. I imagine this is a piece of crap because Pro Mags are pretty notorious for not being reliable, and the Mini 30 magazines are no exception in that regard. Have not fired this gun yet, by the way, because I need somebody to go with me to be my brass catcher, and that's kind of a topic for another video. But anyway, I haven't actually shot this gun, but I can tell you what I know just in general about the Mini 30. So, magazines for the Mini 30 are actually a lot harder to come across than just your regular Mini 14 mags. At the gun shop, they did have this one 5-round magazine, which is in the gun, so I picked up that whenever I bought the gun. I bought 2 of these KCI mags because in my search for a reliable Mini 30 magazine, typically all you come across are like the Pro Mags, whether it's the plastic or the metal mags, and most people say that they're crap. And then there might be like one other type of magazine that people generally say are crap. I came across these. These are KCI magazines. There's not a whole lot of people out there talking about them. There's a few, and some of them are pretty promising, and they may not look to be the best quality as most aftermarket magazines are, but I've heard more good reviews on these than bad reviews, so I'm kind of hoping to see if these are actually good magazines. I won't hold my breath, but I have more faith in these than I do these, just because I very rarely ever see a good review on one of these. So, but who knows? I'll give it a try. And then of course, I got one of these, and I think I picked up one of these because it was like you had to spend so much money for free shipping, so I got 2 of these. And then this is a Ruger Factory 20-round magazine. These are pretty much your best option when it comes to magazines because it is a factory magazine, very reliable, 20 rounds, and for whatever reason, Ruger does not make a 30-rounder for the Mini 30, which just seems weird to me. They make 30-rounders for the Mini 14, but not the Mini 30. But, I have one of these, and I would really like to get a couple more of these. I don't really see this particular rifle as necessarily a defensive rifle. I mean, I would use it for that, but I don't see myself having 20 magazines for this particular rifle. I primarily bought it to be like a hunting gun and a range gun. And that brings up my next point is ammunition. So this shoots 7.62 by 39, just like the AK and the SKS and a few other very popular guns out there. And, there's a few bolt actions out there as well that shoot it, but it takes 7.62 by 39, which for whatever reason, anytime I see a video on a Mini 30, everybody brings up the fact that you can't shoot steel case ammo reliably in this gun. In other words, the Mini 30 is notorious for light primer strikes on steel case ammunition. And then everybody's like, oh, well, that just defeats the purpose of the gun because, the only reason I bought this gun is so I can shoot the cheap ammunition that I can get from the store for like $5 a box or $4 a box or whatever. And, for whatever reason, they think that the only reason that you would ever get a 30 caliber rifle is for the cheap ammunition and nothing else. The ballistics, the hunting properties of the gun, just, they don't matter. All that matters is the steel case cheap crap ammunition. And, I will say that the Mini 30 is known to have light primer strikes on steel-cased ammunition. But guess what? There's more than steel-cased ammunition out there. You can get brass-cased ammunition for this gun. It's going to cost you a little bit more. But, come on, guys. It's a 30 caliber rifle. It's not a 22 caliber rifle like the Mini 14 with its 223. And the reason 223-5.56 is so inexpensive is because it's a military round. That's why it's so inexpensive. The reason that all your steel-cased ammunition for your 7.62x39 is so inexpensive is because it's cheap Chinese, Russian crap ammunition. And it's really meant to be shot out of your Chinese and your Russian and whatever other country rifles. So like your AK-47s, your AK-74s if you're doing the 5.45, your SKSs. It's really meant for those rifles because that's just how it was designed. This is an American rifle. It was designed to shoot American brass case ammunition. And guess what? Brass case ammunition is better ammunition. So it's going to cost you more. Now, there are some sources of brass case ammunition that are not that expensive. They're not that much more expensive than steel case. Gecko makes some pretty inexpensive brass case ammunition. I think it's like $8 a box for 20 rounds, which is not bad because your steel case is generally like what, $5 a box, $6 a box. I have a few boxes of steel case ammunition that was like $7 a box. So, I mean, $8 a box, maybe $7.50. It's not that much more expensive than steel cased ammunition. Then of course there's a couple other brands that have some fairly inexpensive, like PPU, Fiocchi. They're probably a little bit more than the Gecko ammunition, but they're still not that much more expensive. I picked up some Winchester, which typically sells for like $15 a box, but whenever Walmart was getting rid of all their tactical ammunition and all the home defense ammunition and the handgun ammunition, they were selling them for $3 a box. So I got like 3 or 4 of them, I think. So that was a steal in my opinion. And then there's just a few other brands of ammunition. It's going to cost you a little bit more than steel case ammunition and a little bit more than like your Gecko brass case ammunition or your PPU. And but there's some cheap brass case ammunition out there, and for me, I see this as more of a hunting gun anyway. So I'm gonna use a little bit higher quality ammunition in this gun. I don't plan on going to the range and blowing through 200, 300, 400 rounds in a day. That's just stupid. This is an old gun anyway, so I don't really want to shoot that much ammunition at a time through this gun. This is primarily a deer hunting gun, a hog hunting gun, basically a medium to large game hunting gun. So, I mean, that's what I bought it for. And again, just to be like a fun gun to take to the range, and maybe take a couple magazines out, do a little target practice, shoot some 2 liters and milk jugs and maybe some steel. I didn't buy this to be a primary, like, SHTF rifle. This really isn't that a good option for that kind of rifle anyway. But if you want to shoot steel case ammunition, and that is a very important thing to you, there are a couple of things you can do to this gun that I've heard of anyway, that will make it shoot the steel case ammunition more reliably, maybe not 100%, but more reliably. One thing is, I've heard people like modifying their firing pin a little bit so that the firing pin actually goes through the bolt just ever so slightly more to put a bigger indentation on the primer. I don't think I would ever attempt to do that just because I don't trust myself enough to do that, and I don't necessarily recommend that you do that, but I've heard of other people doing that. So if you want to, scour the web and find some forums or some videos on how to do that, go for it, but that's not really something that I recommend. The other thing that I've heard people do is putting a heavier hammer spring in the rifle so that it has more pressure behind it when it hits the firing pin and makes the round go off. Again, if you want to do that, you can go ahead and do it, and it'll probably make it a little more reliable for you. But in my opinion, this gun this isn't an AK, this isn't an SKS, this isn't a Chinese, Russian, Yugo, Hungarian rifle. This is an American rifle. It's made to shoot American ammunition, and it's really meant to be more of a hunting rifle and maybe a defensive rifle, but primarily this, at least this configuration, is primarily meant to be a hunting rifle, and that's what I plan on using it for. It's what a lot of other people plan on using it for. So I'd say just stick to brass. You can shoot your cheaper brass for the range, and you can shoot your more expensive brass, your more expensive hunting rounds for when you're out deer hunting, hog hunting, whatever you're hunting. And I just think it's a good rifle, and I definitely think it would excel at hunting those kinds of animals. So that's really what I bought it for. Not necessarily a primary hunting rifle, but a backup hunting rifle, because I don't plan on putting a scope on it. And by the way, if you want to put a scope on it, I don't remember if I said this, but this, as far as I know, all Mini 30s came with the integral scope mounts. So, and they come with rings too. Then this one did not, because it was used, and I don't really care. I don't need a scope on this, but I do have some rings from another Mini 14 that I could put on here if I wanted to, but I don't really want to. But yeah, so you can put a scope on it. There's also the side-mounted option for scopes, which I have on one of my other Mini 14s. And yeah, so that's really all I have to say about the Mini 30. It's just basically a good M1 action style of rifle, where you have your M1 Garand style action, so it's a semi-automatic, and it would be good for hunting, good for self-defense, maybe even good for offense, and just an all-around good rifle, in my opinion. Maybe not as good as an AK, or I'd say it's better than an SKS myself, but maybe not better than an AK or an AR, but still a good option, especially if you live in a state where you can't own an AK or an AR, and you can own this or a Mini 14. These are good options, in my opinion. So, subscribe to my channel, like me on Facebook. I'm Redneck Mini 14, and until next time, be safe.